Happy New Year. It's Irina, and I've got something super exciting to kick off your new year. If you're an HR professional who's ready to finally land your next HR role, this is for you. On January 22nd, I'm doing something really special. I'm hosting a free live masterclass where I'm going to break down everything you need to know to get hired in the next 90 days. We're talking about what's actually working in today's market, resumes, interviews, how to land offers as quickly as possible that are aligned, how to get noticed for those opportunities that you are dying to hear back from, and how to confidently position yourself in today's market specifically. Because the truth is, the job market has changed. There is so much opportunity still for HR professionals to stand out when you know how to stand out the right way. And that is exactly what I'm going to be breaking down. So if your goal is to land your next HR role in early 2026, or better yet, in the next 90 days, then you need to be at this training session. It is free, it is actionable, and it's going to set the tone for the entire year. So swipe up, hit the link to register in the show notes, and I cannot wait to see you there on January 22nd. Hey, it's Irina Pozan, and welcome back to the Career Cravings Podcast. This podcast has a simple mission. It's to help ambitious professionals like you build the career and life that you've been craving. Over the past 15 years, I've worked as an HR leader, designed hiring systems, led recruitment teams, and I've sat on the other side of the hiring table. I've seen what works in today's job market, what doesn't, and what separates those good candidates from the ones that actually land their dream roles. Now I'm bringing everything I've learned straight to you. Each episode is packed with actionable insights and tools to help you land your dream role sooner. Now let's dive in. Today is a special episode where I hopped into a good friend of mine's YouTube channel, Linda Raynier, where she interviewed me. She is a best-selling author. I recently had her on the podcast as well. And we dive into today's job market and how to land your dream role today in specifically this job market. I share things I've never shared before. And we also dive into tactics of what that looks like, how to design an aligned pitch, the 5-step job search process that is working for my clients today, and how to get invited to the next interview stage by being authentically yourself. But of course, we go deeper. So we go beyond those tactics and we talk about the belief that we have in ourselves and how that impacts the type of role we end up landing, how to manage your energy, especially when things are challenging, and also how to shift from the scarcity mindset, which I've personally been in, as well as Linda, to the match for this role energy. If you're a high performer who feels unseen in today's market, this episode will definitely resonate with you and help you communicate with that calm confidence without trying to pretend you're extroverted, but actually knowing how to manage your energy to land that dream role. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. If it resonated with you, leave me a comment wherever you are listening to this, and I cannot wait to connect with you.
Irina, I am so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so excited to connect. I always love our conversations. I love how introverted you are. I love how deep you go. So very much looking forward to reconnecting. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I feel you have so much value to add. Can you share with my audience, with the people listening and watching, who's Irina Pozan?
Yes. So I'm Irina Pozan. I have been an HR director of talent management and recruitment, spent my career in HR, now turned career coach. And I'm the founder of Career Cravings podcast, which I recently had you on, and I loved our conversation. And now I help people land their dream jobs in record time.
I love that. So since you're on the topic, we're talking about job search. I know right now, the quiet achievers that are watching, there's a good chunk of them that are still in the midst of looking for a new job, or they're planning to look for a new job. And we've been hearing a lot of things going on about the market being difficult, and it's hard to get a job. People sending out thousands of resumes, not getting, and just hearing crickets. I mean, I would love from your perspective, what is happening in the job market right now?
Yes, such a good question, and so timely in terms of, year end, and I know many people will set goals to land their next opportunities that are more aligned with what they're looking for. If I were to look at the job market, I would say that for the last 3 years, it has been fairly consistent. So it has been, to your point, a challenging job market. It hasn't been the greatest market to find a new role. That's for a number of reasons. So first, with AI changing things, with the economy, so many different factors. And throughout the last 3 years, what has been consistent is that it has been challenging to find a role. I think a huge component that people don't talk about enough is this global awakening that a lot of us have had since 2020. I was very much part of that group where I started to question, what is my next opportunity? After I landed my dream job, I was kind of thinking to myself, and I know I read this in your book too, thinking to myself, is this it? Like, I thought it would bring me a lot more happiness than it did. And I started asking myself the big questions. What is my legacy? What is the purpose that I want to leave? And what is my dream job? Like, what does that really look like? Because I had worked so hard for over a decade to get to what I thought would be the pinnacle of my career. And I was really wrong. And I think a lot of people can resonate with that. I know my clients come to me with the same types of thoughts and trying to figure out what is next and what does that look like. And then that's half the battle, right? So you can know exactly where you want to go and you can have that role in mind. But to your point, it's harder to land now than it has been in a very long time, possibly ever. And the thing that we have to keep in mind is that that's not going anywhere. So it's not like we're going to wake up in 2026 and all of a sudden it's like, okay, anyone with a heartbeat can land any job like it was in, early 2021. That's not going to happen realistically with AI and the way things are evolving. There is a lot of global competition and it is up to us to adapt to the new normal. And the more that we can accept the new normal and know how to realistically attain what we are looking for in this new normal, the better that it will be.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is it's been challenging the last few years and it's going to continue to be challenging. And what that means is, as job seekers, it means that we need to do something different than what has worked in the past.
Adapt. Exactly. If we do what we used to do in 2019 today, what will continue to happen is probably what you're hearing about as well, right? Where it's like you're applying to hundreds of roles. Maybe you're listening and you've been applying for a year or 6 months and you're just not finding a way to be seen in today's market because of all of the competition. It is up to us to adapt. And if we don't, we'll continue to get those same results, right? We'll continue to feel stuck and stagnated.
Yes. Okay. Well, then I really am so curious as to, for you, what are the differences between how someone would have applied in 2019 versus how they should be applying in 2025, 2026? What are the biggest differences that I you don't have to share all your beautiful secrets, but just some insights so that people understand what they need to look into?
Yes. That's such a huge question. And I think it does really come down to, you mentioned the word secrets. So it does come down to understanding what the audience is looking for at every single stage and really understanding that deeply. So the way that I've created my coaching programs is around understanding deeply. So being in HR for 15 years, leading recruitment teams, creating programs to help people get to the next level, and using that as the basis to understand each step and walk people through that. So if we break it down, there's really 5 steps. And I don't want to take, too long walking through the steps, but there's kind of 5 phases that you can evaluate as a job seeker if you're looking for your next opportunity. And the first one is the resume, right? So if you're not hearing back at least 10% of the time in today's market, it's really a signal for you to assess that, diagnose that, and go a little bit deeper, understanding what is it that the audience wants. In terms of audience, what I mean is you were a past recruiter. So what are recruiters looking for that specific role that you're targeting? What are the hiring managers looking for that specific role? And how have you authentically done that in your career to show up as the best candidate, right? So that we are getting noticed. once you're landing those interviews 10% of the time, at least, amazing, right? Then the next focus is a lot more challenging often, especially for the quiet achievers in your audience, which is being able to stand out in that initial phone screen, right? This is an area that I know a lot of people struggle with because it is the time to really sell yourself. And that didn't always come naturally to me. I've definitely learned the very hard way by being rejected for multiple director roles myself and really taking a step back to think, okay, wait a minute. I thought I was fully qualified for those roles. The interviews I thought went super well. Like, what is it that happened through this process? And really be able to look introspectively and reflect on those experiences. And what I learned was I wasn't aligning myself to the role at the director level. And inside, I wasn't sure if I was truly ready yet. Like, I thought I was qualified. I was landing the interviews. But once I really took a look at what is it that is required here in that initial conversation and be able to articulate my value in a way that's aligned with that target role, that's when everything shifted, right? So that pitch, that first 90 seconds, as you know, I know one of your most viral videos to date is that Tell Me About You question. So you know this better than anyone, but that is so, so, so important because your first impression matters today more than it did in 19, because there are just more options of candidates, right? There have been so many layoffs. Employers have so many options. Next is the final interviews. What it takes to land the first interview is very different than what it takes to succeed in that final interview and beyond to get that offer. And the last thing that people miss is those are all very clear. People focus on those elements, but it's that mindset, which I know you talk a lot about. That mindset is everything. And I could put it at number one, but then that's when people usually stop listening because they're like, oh, of course, mindset. But like, really, it is the cornerstone of even having a great resume. Because if you're not super excited, like jumping up and down about your accomplishments and how they relate to your target role, guess what? No one will notice your resume, right? In the sea of them. So today, I think that mindset piece really sets great candidates apart at each and every stage to be able to move forward quickly and do well through that.
I agree wholeheartedly. I feel that, in all honesty, because when I was doing career coaching, when I started 10 years ago, I'll be honest, mindset at the time wasn't as much of a factor as I feel it is now, where people are bombarded with this programming and these ideas that it is hard, it is not easy, and therefore that creates more anxiety. And if you don't have the right mindset, you don't have the beliefs, and you don't have the conviction that you are valuable and that you are wanted by these hiring managers, yes, it is so easy for them to sniff out that lack of confidence, that insecurity, and no matter what the qualifications are, you might lose the role to someone who shows up with more of that confidence and comfort within themselves and conviction that they can do the job. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree. If we don't believe in ourselves first, how can we ever articulate that to someone else to be like, no, I know I'm the perfect candidate for this. I know I could do a great job in this role if given the opportunity. How will you show that to anyone else if you don't believe it first? And also today, unfortunately, there are so few interviews that people are really landing that the energy in the interview feels a little bit needy, feels a little desperate, right? And people can sense that as well, where they're like, okay, maybe this isn't, we all want what we can't have. And maybe this isn't the perfect candidate for us if that is the way that they're coming off. So it really does start with believing that you are the right candidate and then having the right alignment and energy going into these interviews now more than ever.
Oh my gosh, I am so on board with that. That is exactly the same thing that I tell a lot of the clients that I've worked with. So to jump into that a little bit further, for those of the quiet achievers that don't love, like, let's say they believe, they'll say, I know that I bring value to the table. I know I've done good work. I know I have the accomplishments and the experience for this job. But what is it about how they're articulating their value or the way that they're communicating that needs to be tweaked, have you noticed, when it comes to these interviews? Is it, and I mean, I have my own perspective where it's more about the storytelling and it's more about, really feeling as though you can connect with the person across the table from you. And there's little ways to do that. But I'm curious on your take.
Yes. So the pitch is so, so important. And I am obsessed with writing pitches. I write all of my clients' pitches because this is so, so important. And often what I find is, especially for those that are more introverted or those quiet achievers, once I start asking questions, then I learn a lot more. And this isn't something that's top of mind, right? Because often we're taught to just work hard, not to mention it too much, just put our heads down, just keep going. And then this comes through in the interview, especially that pitch when we talk about the tell me about you question. So I'll speak to someone who, let's say, has been like promoted consistently in every role they've had. They've done excellent work that's perfectly aligned, but often they're missing that in their introduction. And as soon as that happens, we lose the audience. So what happens on the other end is the recruiter is thinking, ooh, okay, this person doesn't check all of the boxes that I'm looking for. I can't wait to call the next person and see if they have it. So I know a lot of us feel uncomfortable tooting our own horn, or we've been taught not to do that in many areas of our life. But the interview process is the time to do that, because if we don't do it, no one else will do it for us, right? So I love to dig in, and this will take some reflection. So one exercise that I can share that works really, really well is if you picture, remember in school, the Venn diagram, right? So it's like two circles. So if you picture the role, the target role in one circle, okay? And then you picture you as the candidate, all of your accomplishments, every projects you've worked on, like all of those incredible things you've done in the next circle. And where those two things intersect in the middle is the only thing I want you to focus on in all of the interviews, especially your pitch. And you're right, it does come down to the connection so that you can show that authenticity, right? And it also, most importantly, comes down to what is in perfect alignment between who you are as a candidate and that specific target role. And the more you can focus in on that and zero in on that, the better the interview will go, because the interviewer and the hiring manager, all they're doing is trying to reduce risk that you may not be the right fit, or risk that you might not stay very long, or risk that you won't perform in the role. And the more you can focus on those things that intersect and overlap, the better it will go. And yes, I'm huge on storytelling to prove those skills as well, and having that, what I call top stories to back that up as well. But so important. And I'll say, earlier in my career, I didn't always do this. Like, I didn't advocate for myself too. And I quickly learned that that's not the way I was going to achieve my goals. And it was uncomfortable. Like, when I tell you about that time where I was rejected for those director roles, I really had to sit with why that happened and really try to understand the perspective. Like, I thought the interviews went really well. What was it? And at the end of the day, when I sat back, I knew that I did myself a disservice by not sharing all the things I've done that are perfectly aligned with that role. You know, when I coach clients to build their stories and their pitch, they're often thinking about like, oh, this is where I grew up, and then this is where I lived, and then I went to school for engineering, and then I did this, and then I did that. And it's like, that's not the story. That is not aligned. That's how you lose people, right? The story is, what did you do that was in perfect alignment to that dream opportunity or that perfect role, and really focusing in on that. So it takes a lot of practice. And I have some tools that I can share as well to help folks practice, but it doesn't often come naturally to us, but so worth it to take the time to really dig deep and find that alignment.
I love that you say that, because, and the Venn diagram makes it so clear. I feel it's something that everyone's being told. You have to align to the job. You have to sound like the perfect fit for the job. You have to make sure you match yourself to the job. And it's something that I've also preached as well. And the way that you've honed in on it, though, like you've zoomed in and it really lays the foundation. Because if people understand, I just need to identify and look into the things that I've done, the experiences that I have that align perfectly with the job, and start from there, that already, just even from a confidence perspective, it starts to build that a little bit, because then you can see I am a match and that there is potential for me. I mean, that's the right starting point.
Yes.
I love that.
You have to see it first. So it's like, say you're going for a manager, director, VP role. When we look at those roles, no matter which industry you're in, I can guarantee that those roles are looking for strategy and leadership. every
Yeah.
single time across the board. So it's not about aligning, like so many people say, change your resume for each and every role. It's like, no, you'll never have the time in this market, and that's not effective. And AI could do that for you, and everyone's doing that. But really taking the step back to do that deeper assessment of like, okay, how, even though I may never have been a leader before, how have I displayed leadership? How have I displayed the strategic mindset? And if you can hone in on that and really know that you have done that through various ways and put it front and center, even in that first minute of the conversation, things will look really different. Instead of hearing like, okay, I'm going to check with the hiring manager and get back to you. You probably use that line a lot, like I did as well.
Yes.
But instead, when you have that really great aligned candidate, you're thinking, okay, no, I need, like, how's your Friday looking? I need to introduce you to that hiring manager. And you start hearing something very different. So for those that are listening that are like, I'm not sure if I'm doing my story, the justice it deserves. If you're thinking that, there's another test that you can do. What I recommend always is 80% of the time. So when you have a phone screen, the way you know if your story is landing aligned with that role is, are you moving forward 80% of the time in those conversations to the next interview? And the reason I say this is you've already been screened in. It's like people have seen your resume. They liked what you have to offer. They know you're a great candidate and they decided to call you, which is actually the most difficult part right now to get noticed in that phase. But after that, if they speak to you and then they're like, well, I'm not really sure. Let's see what other candidates there are. And then we'll decide if that's happening more than 80 or 20% of the time, then okay, it's probably time to go back, revisit, reflect, see what else you can do to really articulate that in the way that your resume did to capture their attention in the first place.
Yes, love that. I love how you give the numbers, if it's not 80%, if it's not 20%, like just giving people an understanding of where they're at right now versus just, I'm just not good at this and I can't do this. Like you're giving people perspective and I feel like it's fantastic. Now, I want to jump ship a little bit over to those individuals who they're saying, yeah, well, I've been doing this. I have gone on some interviews. I've been getting rejected consistently. Yes, you're right. Maybe I need to revisit my pitch. So that's, I think, in their minds right now. But on top of that, what I've seen is that in this market, a lot of the individuals that are looking after a few rejections, they emotionally, mentally, energetically are just drained. And I know that that's not a great place to be because then when you do get called for an interview and you're coming from that place, to pull yourself out of it, to show the hiring manager that you're excited and that you're enthusiastic and that you're the right fit for the job becomes that much harder. So what's your guidance on ensuring and helping people in the landscape that we're in to stay positive, to stay calm, to stay, to keep moving forward, even if there's going to be rejections in the process? I mean, what's your take on that?
You're so right. People will face rejection. I think the first step is really understanding that it's not going to go perfectly. We're not going to just have, this dream offer drop in our laps. And I think setting those expectations out of the gate is so, so important. But beyond that, your biggest opportunity is to show up differently in today's market, right? So what that means is you need to be taking care of yourself so that you could show up in your most positive and authentic way. People can sense when it's like toxic positivity or you're just faking it, and people can really see through that. And then that often leads to not getting that call or that offer. So the biggest tool that I love personally using is gratitude. So even though things are really challenging, I know you and I, Linda, have gone through really challenging things in our lives. Cancer has touched both of our lives. I mean, being refugees and growing up in that type of household also, these are really challenging things. And job search can be challenging as well, right? So keeping that in mind, understanding that, and then being able to be grateful, genuinely grateful. So I'll give you an example. While, it could be raining outside, it's dark, you're not feeling your best, you just got your 10th rejection email that week, you haven't heard back for an interview. While that is all true, and it may be part of your experience, sitting down for a moment and thinking about what is it that you can still be grateful for very genuinely. Is it your family? Is it, your partner making you a cup of coffee that morning? Is it maybe it's sunny outside? Like it could be anything. And I always love to ask my clients this as we shift energy getting onto our coaching calls, because I understand it could be a difficult time, but what is it that we can be grateful for and genuinely feeling the emotions, right? So I've done this through some of the most challenging times in my life. And the more I journaled on that, the more I felt it. And it really does, like even 10 minutes of gratitude journaling will shift your perspective. And then before an interview, like to your point, you could be feeling like, oh, they're probably going to reject me. Like, why would they hire me? They have 1,000 other candidates. I don't have the perfect experience. Maybe you're new to the country, or maybe you have a gap, or maybe you were laid off and you're worried about all these things that are factual that are coming up for you. If you focus on that in the minute before you're hopping into that Zoom call, it's probably not going to go super well. You're probably not going to be in that right mindset, right? But if let's say you have already, and I'm big on preparation, I can share a lot more on that, but super important to prepare, but that is done, let's say the day before, the morning of. When it is time to show up that call, what is one thing you can do to shift your energy in the 10 minutes before? I recently held a conference in Toronto and we were talking about this, and my friend is like, she was the MC for the event. And when I talked about this, she was like, what shifts my energy? Beyonce. And it's like, yeah, like maybe you play your favorite song, maybe you dance around instead of focusing in on like those robotic scripted answers. Like, how can you be in your best energy, your most authentic self? Take the pressure off. And I know it takes practice, but being able to show up in a way that you feel like this is your highest self, right? So taking great care of yourself in those moments to know what you need. Gratitude could be a huge, huge tool in doing that, even when things are super hard. I'm curious, Linda, like I know you're asking the questions today, but I'm curious, like what has helped you get through, like you're in a big book launch. It's been 5 months of all of these events, which are so exciting. But of course, I know they also take a lot of energy. Like what are some tools that work for you in shifting your energy to show up as like your highest self?
Oh, well, thank you for asking the question. I mean, I totally resonate with you and the gratitude. I feel like it sounds like to me you're doing it on a much more consistent basis than I am from that perspective, because I'll do it when I really get down, in the pits of feeling not the greatest, where it's like, okay, hold on, I really need to turn to what I'm grateful for. Help guiding others to do that on a more consistent basis is amazing. So that's fantastic. But in terms of what I do to try to keep things even keel on a regular basis is I'm very self-aware with my emotions in terms of how I'm feeling. So for example, if I'm going through my day and there's just that feeling in the pit of my stomach where I feel off, I feel uncomfortable, I feel anxious, uneasy, I will make sure that I don't ignore that or avoid that. That's something that I've learned over the last few years, that I used to just bulldoze over what I felt and just kept going at it. But instead, I would turn to that and ask myself, well, why am I feeling this? Where's the stress coming from? So I would go down to that level of understanding, what am I telling myself? What am I believing? And it's in that moment where the acknowledgement alone does something energetically to shift you. So it's similar to what you're saying in terms of you're getting, I think it's gratitude is great because it's a quicker sort of process to shift your energy. In this case, it's when you probably need a little bit more time to sit with yourself. And so I'll do that in meditation, or I'll do it throughout my day at moments where I'm feeling off, and I'll have to just sit to allow whatever wants to come to the surface. It's usually some sort of message, rise. And if it's, okay, you're stressed because you're tired because of this, this, and this, and you're believing this and this, it's like, okay, okay, so do I need to keep thinking this way? Do I need to keep believing this? If not, I'll let that go. And that takes me on a different path.
That's beautiful. No, that's so beautiful. It's the stillness, tapping into your intuition. And often today, what is missing from a lot of people's lives is getting still and quiet for a minute, right?
Yes.
So that we can actually allow some of that to come through and we can understand what is the block, what is the stressor, and really be able to identify and shift that. And often, like, we will have our podcasts playing when we're walking in nature. We'll be driving in the car and listening to an audiobook, and then we'll be at home, back to back on calls. I'm like, that will never lead to listening to our intuition, right? We do need to take the meditation to your point or sitting in silence. And for me, it's just natural to journal. That's where I get everything out onto the
Mm.
page. And I'm like, ooh, this is bothering me. But you made me think of something else that's a really great tool as well that builds on that, which is an energy audit. So I love doing this. It does take a little bit longer, but this is a really great tool also if you're assessing your next career chapter or thinking about what lights you up. I know you've been someone who's pivoted so much from like, the CPA to the recruiter. You got a yoga instructor designation, then a career coach, and now an author. It's like each time that was done intentionally, right? But a tool, it comes a little bit less natural to me. So I need to use a tool. But
Yeah.
what I like to do is an energy audit. So it's like I'll look at a longer period of time, like a week, a month, 2 weeks, whatever that looks like, and really assess, okay, what has this week looked like for me? So this week, it's like we're filming this. I have an event. There's like things that are happening. And I look back and I think, okay, what were the experiences that filled me up and gave me more energy? And which are the ones that kind of drained me from that perspective? And then leaning in, thankfully, I have the ability now to design my life in a way that does fill me with energy in each moment. But looking into, okay, what are those energy draining activities? And for you, maybe you are an accountant right now, right? Or, you're working in a specific role. You could do this as well. Like really assess, okay, is it the back-to-back meetings that are draining? Is it when, you're getting lots of Slack messages that gives you that feeling in the pit of your stomach where you're like, ooh, this feels like a lot. This feels overwhelming. Is it the email inbox that's exploding? Like, what are the things that are stressful in your day, in your career, in your work that week? And then what are the things that lit you up? Like, I know after we get off this call and last time we were together as well, it's like when I got off, I felt like I had more energy, right? But I do have to preserve it because I'm also an introvert. So it's like I know how to flex those moments, but I also need to make sure I'm intentionally designing my week in a way where I'm feeling good, or else I won't be able to serve anyone. And I know a lot of us don't pay attention to those things that we just think, oh, it's just part of my job. Like I used to drive 3 hours a day to work and I would come home and I would have these headaches and I loved what I was doing at work. Like I loved designing the programs to get people to the next level. I loved so many aspects of the job. I had an amazing boss. I was leading a great recruitment team. Like I loved so many different aspects of the role. But at the end of the day, I'd come home with headaches and I was like, my husband would try to talk to me. I'm like, I need to get into bed. Like, I'm so exhausted. I'm so drained. And when I really thought, what is it that I love? Okay, amazing. Check, check, check. What is it that I don't love? And how do I remove that? And I actually did because I was aware of that. I went to my boss and I let him know, like, I cannot spend this time in the commute. I don't think it's serving you. I don't think it's serving me. And this is what I'm feeling. And then I was able to get more flexibility and make it, a role that was more fulfilling for me, less draining for me, right? So the awareness is the first thing, or else we won't know what to even ask for.
I love that. And I love that our conversation has shifted to that because I feel like it really is where I'm at right now, even with the work that I'm doing and shifting and pivoting and, getting a handle on what I want my week to look like, my day to look like compared to what it looked like even 6 months ago, compared to what it looked like a year before that. It's been changing so much. And also being a working mom and handling the responsibilities and the needs of our kids, balancing that with our work and still being a high achiever, all of those things are coming into
Yeah.
play.
And I love that. And we all have the ability to some extent to design our day, right?
We
And to
do.
design what we do. And sometimes in the corporate 9 to 5, we feel like we have a lot less control over that than obviously you and I owning our own businesses and really designing that. But still, we have things that we need to do. Like for me, it's probably different for you. The math is not my favorite thing. The financials, the accounting side, like I don't love all that. So,
Yeah.
okay, how can I make that? I still need to do it. Oh my goodness, I still need a piano. But at the end of the day, like, how can I get support with those things so they're less draining for me so that I can fill my cup with what I love, right? Bringing more of that in. So I think we all have the control and the ability to design our life. And maybe it's not today. Maybe you don't have a ton of flexibility today, but okay, what can you do to set yourself up, whether it's finding a new role or speaking up at work for what you need, to align yourself that maybe in 6 months, you have that light at the end of the tunnel of like, okay, this is what I need. And this is how I'm going to go about getting it, because we do have control. I think the moment we forget that, then we feel like that negativity, like it's so hard, and we get those negative thoughts and like, can't believe I need to do this thing again. It's so draining for me, right? Instead of seeing the positivity of like, okay, well, I'm going to work towards changing that by X date, right? It's such a
Love
good
that.
reminder.
So powerful, so powerful. And I'm just thinking about the quiet achievers or the job seekers that are watching this video, feeling like, oh, are you speaking from a place of privilege because you guys are working and you're making money, and here I am unemployed, still looking for an opportunity. I don't have that quote unquote privilege to be able to decide what I do with my day. I have to do these things. But to your point, you have control ultimately over everything. I mean, I genuinely feel you have control over how you feel, how you
Mhm.
see things, your
Mhm.
perspective. And
Mhm.
so it really is about shifting yourself from that deeper place to be able to say, okay, yes, I'm in between opportunities, but that means that I have the opportunity to be able to find something that could light me up, could be exactly aligned to what I'm able to bring to the table, that would give me the growth that I'm looking for in my career. And so bringing that's I would feel is where they could draw their enthusiasm and their energy and their excitement from, is that prospect
Future.
of what could happen. Yeah, what's possible
Yes.
for them.
Yes. Like, let's talk about privilege for a second, because yes, you're right. I am in a very different place today than I was when I was little. My life today is actually a direct opposite of what it looked like growing up, right? We talked about the refugee kind of story and coming from immigrant families, and like my family ran from a war and a tour, like a country with war happening, with nothing, came to Canada. I know, very similar to your parents. And the first half of my life financially and, in many ways was focused around survival,
Yes.
right? It's a different place to be in. A lot of my clients come to me when they are unemployed, because at that point it's even more important to land a role, to be, earning a living. But even in those days where you might feel that scarcity, having a vision that your future could be brighter than your past is so important. And having confidence
Mhm.
in that you can make the decisions, whether or not it takes 1 year or 10 years to get to where you crave in your life is so, so important, even in those challenging times, right? So being able to see that, I'll tell you a recent kind of case study just to make it real for people. Like, this is not news to me. So I had this client, Shrey, beautiful individual. I remember speaking to him, and he came to me because he was looking for over a year for his next role. And in his home country, he had some great HR experience, but coming to Canada, he couldn't even land an interview for a year straight. We met, and he was losing the belief that, it would be possible for him. He had applied to roles that were much beneath him, beneath his experience. He was trying to land any role, right? He needed to support his family, and that was the number one priority. We changed everything around. He was actually working in a minimum wage job just to survive on a day-to-day basis, right? Because of course, living in Toronto, especially, he's local to us as well. It's really important to have that coming in. But he had in his mind the possibility that his future could be brighter, that he could possibly land something that will be life-changing for him. And in 1 month, he landed an HR director role as his first role in Canada. It changed his whole life, like going from minimum wage to really like high 6 figures in a month. That is life changing. And nothing changed in terms of who he is. His experience didn't change. His credentials didn't change. His mindset, his outlook changed. Of course, his resume changed, his interview skills changed. All of that changed. But this
Yes.
summer we were celebrating at my event and like hugging, like, oh my goodness, this is wild, right? And I've had him on the podcast. So if you're interested in hearing more about his perspective on what he did to shift that, you can go from scarcity to abundance in a fairly short amount of time. And the first step is the belief that your future could be brighter than where you are today. And having that hope Because if you don't have the hope, you won't do anything different. You'll just think, well, nothing's going to improve. Like if I believed nothing would improve, why would I take any action? Why would I pour any time into even the application process? Right. So it's that belief and having the hope.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. That story just gives me chills. Going from a minimum wage job to an HR director role, that is unheard of. And
His
you
first role in
were,
Canada. It's wild. I couldn't
you
believe
played,
it. When he told me, I had goosebumps. I was like, are you joking? Because in that minute, his whole life changed.
oh my
And that's
God, that
possible
is
for you too.
amazing.
So it's like if you're
Yes.
listening to this and you are having a similar experience or you're in that kind of place of scarcity, you're losing hope. I love sharing success stories and the transformation stories because they do inspire us, right? I know, like, I love seeing you right now living a dream that I have, right? That you went out and launched your book, and that is so beautiful. And it's like you poured your heart and soul into it. Now seeing it in the world, that's become real for you, right? It's beautiful. And having
Yeah.
those dreams, keeping them alive it's a beautiful gift.
Absolutely. I love that. I feel like that's a great note to end off of for the people that are watching is to keep the vision, have that in the forefront of your mind as to where you're going, what's possible for you. And all it takes then from there is, yes, effort, but the belief. It really is the belief,
Yes.
moving forward with action, with belief. So thank you for that beautiful reminder, Irina.
Hey, before you go, don't forget to sign up for my free live masterclass happening on January 22nd. If you are an HR professional looking to land your next HR role within the next month or two, this session you don't want to miss. We're going to dive into everything that's working in today's job market, what has changed, how to get your resume noticed, nail your interviews, and finally get hired for the role that you love. It is completely free. It's live, and the energy in the room is going to be freaking amazing as usual. So swipe up, tap the link in the show notes, and save your seat right now before the spots fill up. And I cannot wait to see you there and help you make 2026 the year you finally get hired for the role that you've been craving. See you on January 22nd. Hey, before you go, if you've enjoyed listening to today's show, I would love your support. Please take a moment to leave a review anywhere where you listen to podcasts. And here's the exciting part. I'm running a special contest and giving away a one-on-one session with yours truly. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and send it to me in my DMs. All of my contact info is in the show notes. I appreciate you so much, and I cannot wait to build the career and life that you've been craving together. See you next week.